Hi everybody, my name is Mike. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be telling you about my thoughts on which is better animation software, Toon Boom Harmony Premium or Moho. I'll give you a bit of background and I'll show you some examples of both. I used to be really big into Moho. It was called Moho and then it got changed to Anime Studio. And Moho used to be made by one guy, Mike Clifton. It was a really nice, uncluttered piece of software. I think it was literally 4 megabytes is how big the file size was. And it was, it's got kind of bloated over the years. I used it for a lot of projects, a lot of Goldfish animated music videos that are on YouTube, soundtracks and comebacks. We Come Together, Get Busy Living, Fort Knox, but I was using it in conjunction with Photoshop. You got to understand, Moho's drawing tools aren't great at all. In fact, I find them pretty painful. They're great for if you want to do like really geometric shapes or very clean vector art, but for drawing with a Wacom and with expressive line work, it's not great at all, unfortunately, because otherwise I would have maybe stuck with Moho. To give you an idea of how closely I was involved, by the way, the spoiler for the video is I'm probably going to say Toon Boom Harmony is a better choice if you want to do frame by frame work, and we're going to look at both. But this was the box copy of Anime Studio 7, which went back to being Moho. You can see my company Bruin there on the side. Let's see if this camera actually focuses properly. But here's my artwork for one of Goldfish's music videos on the back. And damn, this camera was focusing a minute ago. There you go. So they used my work on the back of the box and inside as well. There's another of my things from Fort Knox, and there's Bruinbochi, you can see, which is my then company. And then I also got into the box for Anime Studio 8. There's my Mike Scott Animation logo. So I was in touch with the developers, and there's another of my music videos being used to advertise the software. I had a good relationship with the guys making the software, and I asked for some feature requests like Photoshop integration, which they put in, and I was able to use for some animated music videos. But it's just the drawing tools. I really kept coming up against these drawing tools that I was having to draw stuff in Photoshop and then import it into Moho, which is great for a while, but I started getting really frustrated of just not being able to draw in the actual software. So I looked for a better frame-by-frame solution, and eventually Toon Boom was it. So I've got both. I got Moho 12, and I've got, when they use my work for the box, the agreement was I should get lifetime updates of Moho. I got this one in 2016. I don't think there's been a new one since Moho 12. And I had to buy a Toon Boom Harmony on upgrade. So if you're looking at prices, Moho's a lot cheaper than Toon Boom, but and it's just not great for frame by frame animation, unfortunately. I'm going to fire up Toon Boom Harmony, and then we'll look at it. So let's have a look. You're going to see a recursive image because I'm just doing a screen recording on OBS. One of the benefits, the major benefits of Toon Boom, is that the drawing tools are quite similar to. Let me just create a new scene here. Quite similar to Photoshop's, in that if you got a Wacom Cintiq, which I got a 22-inch HD Wacom, you can at least draw into the software. Let me grab my pen. And I'm going to show you Moho's drawing tools as well. So I'm drawing Brew. It's really designed for, you can do frame by frame or rigged setups where you attach bones to characters and a drawing replacement. Anyway, as you can see, the pen follows the cursor pretty well. It's pretty easy to color stuff in. It isn't a full shape. And this is a vector layer that I'm doing now. It's easy to erase. You also get raster layers. So if I go here and create a bitmap layer, you get raster pens, which is quite nice. And just in case you don't like the super clean vector feel. And to me, this is Toon Boom trying to, it's a bit hit and miss to try to get something good. But if you're used to working like Photoshop like I am, you kind of want something that's where you feel like you have a bit more control over it, which these do. And then of course you get onion skinning and a whole bunch of other nice animation tools. So that's really the big one for me. If we try draw into Moho, I'm going to open Moho now, you'll just see how tricky it is. There is one or two things that Moho I think is better at than Toon Boom, which is keyframe cycling. And Moho's also got this great tool which Toon Boom really should use. It's like it's a scale tool, but that keeps the content. It scales. What's the word I'm looking for? As you scale it down, it scales across. So, which is great for squash and stretch. So it keeps the content of the object. So you can like stretch something really thin but have it squash on the sides and vice versa. Toon Boom, you got to do it manually, which is not a deal breaker at all. It's just a really nice tool. So we're opening Moho here. It opens every time with one of these demo projects unless you tell it not to. So, oh man, it's just got so bloated. I don't think it's a good thing. I mean, when the original program was 10 megabytes, this was close to a gig download, I think. So, if I want to draw freehand, even though I know it advertises improved drawing tools, it's kind of doing funny stuff to my line. And I just wouldn't really be able to, with much confidence, get something good out of this. Yeah. Where's the full fill tool? No. If I render that. So, not so great. I find what Moho really is good at is I can't talk for the later versions because I haven't really used them that much, but it's got the animation tools are pretty nice. Geez, it's been a while since I used this. I think if I move anything, it automatically sets a keyframe. Yeah. So one thing that Toon Boom can't do is if I've got this animation here, right? Now I want to set it to cycle. So I go cycle. Let's make it go back 11 frames. See that little arrow to the back? That is such a useful tool because instead of copying and pasting hundreds of keyframes like I need to do with Toon Boom. By the way, I've taken this up with Toon Boom support and I'm going to show you how it doesn't work in Toon Boom, and they've just explained, so you can't do anything like that. It'll just keep referring to the cycle, so whatever I change in the cycle is going to update. So that's great if you've got like a lot of characters in the background and you just want to create a really quick cycle for them to be dancing in the background and moving around. That's so easy to set up and do. And then we can also add some squash and stretch. And you're going to have to forgive me. It really has been a while since I used this. But I'm going to hold Alt, and as the key must have changed. Alt and Shift. There we go. You see, that's really useful for adding squash and stretch keyframes. As I scale down, it squashes it the other direction. And I'm going to copy this keyframe, paste it here. Cycle this one back 12. So that looping thing, would be great if Toon Boom had that, but they don't. One of the pros of Moho is it's got like a really fast interface. If you've got hundreds of layers, I think the way it does it, it stores it in RAM or something, and it just, even if you've got a 3D scene with just stacks of layers along the Z-axis, you can move around it in the 3D view. I'm trying to see the thing to get to the 3D view. It's got like a really nice friendly 3D camera, and with no slowdown at all. It's like extremely fast UI and work view. So, and I find Toon Boom sometimes gets a little bit sluggish the more stuff you add to it, which is a bit unfortunate. Yeah, so you know, Moho's got its own specific things. Unfortunately for frame by frame, it's not really geared towards that. You get things called switch layers, which things get a bit unwieldy if you want to do frame by frame. Back in Toon Boom Harmony, you know, you get drawings that can have many, you get layers that can have many drawings at once. Drawing tools immediately feel much better. I feel like it's not the software's fault with the result that I'm getting. And if I just add a color card here and go to a rendered view. Oops. Yeah, so I'm going to show you an example of keyframe cycling, which I just don't like how Toon Boom deals with it. Just get rid of these drawings here. If I got let's just do like a quick bouncing ball. If I got a ball and I want it to bounce, so I set my first keyframe here. Let's just move that to the middle, sorry, the bottom. Set my next keyframe here, and it's gonna come back down. Pretty simple. By the way, one other thing I like in Toon Boom is these really quick ways to change the velocity of keyframes. It's ease out and ease in, fast or slow, really nice. So now I want to paste these keyframes. So I Control C. One way to do it is just like pasting a whole stack, but if I want to change it, I got to change all of them. Or I can try paste a cycle, which you think would be the logical thing, but it always adds 2 keyframes, and I can't understand this behavior. It drives me nuts. I've asked someone at Toon Boom, they just say that's the way it is, it's a bit faulty. So the result is you got to like get the cycle right once and go and paste it, which is just ridiculous. If you've got a long scene and you want a character in the background doing something, it's painful. Toon Boom's got this node view, which is extremely powerful. I think Harmony, I'm using Harmony Premium. I don't know if the other versions of Toon Boom have it. I think some of the cut down versions don't. But it's great for doing, one of the things I ran into quite a lot with Moho is you have like a group for one object. And if you've got a layer stack in that group, that controls all those layers, that's fine. But sometimes I wanted to, for example, if I've got a layer of a character with a hair piece in front and then she's got hair at the back, I want to be able to have one group that controls both those layers. And unfortunately, I'm just going to have to pause it here. So to step out there, one other thing that's worth mentioning, of course, is puppet style animation, where you rig a character with kind of joints, like kind of South Park-ish thing. A lot of the animation you see on TV, so I think like Rick and Morty is kind of a combination of frame by frame and puppet style animation, where you rig a character with bones. And I used to do a lot of that in Moho. It's one of its strong points. It's really easy and quick to just slap a bone onto a PNG or something you've drawn in the software and move it around in keyframe. It looks really good too. There's some limitations to it, but it's really quick and easy. Toon Boom is also really great at that. The bones are more powerful in that I think you can have a bit more control over them, and there's various types of deformation chains you can put on images and drawings to deform them in different ways. You get like a curve deformer, or you get like a angle or bone deformer. So you might think, oh well, so obviously Toon Boom is better at that, which it is, but it's also nice to just have a simplified toolkit if you want to do something simple. I haven't used Moho for ages because I've realized that everything that I want to do, I can do in Toon Boom, but just more. Sometimes I find it like a little bit, it's almost too much stuff, and I don't know if it's because the program kind of lags a bit on Mac with Toon Boom, but for Moho it has a different feeling than Toon Boom. I find it a bit more fun. The later versions are looking a bit bloated to me. But in the earlier versions at least, you had just something nice about limitations sometimes, is that it can force you to be more creative. I think the works I've done in Moho, I've done some really good music videos, and somehow I got more precise with Moho. I think because I was having to prep my stuff in Photoshop, really work it over, so I didn't have to touch it again before I imported it into Moho. With Toon Boom, it's easy to get quite loose, which is also nice, but I know that I can always go back and work over stuff once the animation's been done. So I think I was just doing a lot more prep work for the Moho stuff, and Moho really shines when you combine it with Photoshop. I think some people buy Moho just thinking that's like an all-in-one package, but they don't tell you on the back of the box. I mean, this was drawn in Photoshop. There's no ways I would be able to get that effect in Moho. See if the camera focuses. They don't tell you that's Photoshop, so it's a little bit of false advertising. They've been doing this for ages. The other stuff that they used in my other box was also all Photoshop, you know. That's Photoshop drawing brought into Moho. In fact, nothing in the shot, come on camera, nothing in the shot is drawn in Moho. It's all Photoshop. The bones, they actually, I did animate with bones, but they've reproduced in the animation tools I love. But you know, if you're gonna, I think you really need to pair it with Photoshop to get the most out of it, where you draw the stuff in Photoshop and then bring it into Moho. There's really helpful forums for Moho called lostmarble.com/forum or forums. I think it's forum. A nice community. I don't know if it's still going, but there were some great people there that would give feedback on work. But I saw a lot of work being posted where I could see the person just got Moho thinking, or Anime Studio thinking it's going to be an all-in-one solution. And of course, it's not really. Whereas what I like about Toon Boom is you can just draw the stuff straight in. Sometimes I still prefer using Photoshop for, you know, background works, anything that involves more textured work. I still like using Photoshop. It's more responsive. There's better brushes that I can use. I find Toon Boom's drawings tools, the vector tools are great and amazing. But the raster stuff, I still just like the workflow of Photoshop. So I draw the stuff in Photoshop, then bring it in and do the character animation drawn in Toon Boom, where that's quite a lot of drawing. And Toon Boom's got the animation tools to help you kind of plan the animation and do rough drawings first and onion skinning. One other thing I want to talk about, just to give you a general idea, I'm going to show you up on the screen some examples of work I've done with Moho and Photoshop, where I've drawn the stuff in Photoshop and then animated it in Moho. And then I also did a whole series called Happy Land, which was done completely in Moho with its own drawing tools. You'll see it looks very different to, the works that were done in Photoshop first. I did a Happy Land pilot, and then I made 52 little Happy Land shorts that I'm uploading one a week now. I made them just about 10 years ago. I'm uploading one a week. And if you search for Happy Land shorts, there should be a big playlist of those. But very different look. And then here's some stuff that was done in Toon Boom, with Toon Boom and Photoshop, and then just straight in Toon Boom using just Toon Boom's drawing tools with the vector drawing tools. It also has a kind of a different loose look. Cool. So, you know, if you're thinking, I'd imagine there's a lot of people thinking, like, if you haven't bought anything yet and you're thinking like, I want to buy something that's going to allow me to animate. And it is a tricky choice because, you know, Moho, I think, although it's a lot cheaper than Toon Boom, once you buy it, I think you soon realize, oh, flip, I actually need something like Photoshop. And then you got to get like probably a Wacom tablet as well. Unless you want to do really simple stuff. Then Toon Boom is really pricey. I bought Toon Boom Animate back in the day on a special, and then I did the upgrade path to get subsequent upgrades that are cheaper, but still very expensive. I mean, I think an upgrade to the latest version of Harmony set me back probably about the same amount or just less than a new version of Moho. So it is pricey, and you know, there's demo versions available, you can try them out. Definitely nice to have a Wacom tablet draw with, to draw the contents with, whether you're drawing into Toon or Photoshop. And then there's the other options are TV Paint, which is lovely. I would love to get a version of TV Paint, but it's just extremely expensive. Now that I'm on the Toon Boom path, I don't know if I can justify spending extra on a whole new software, buying it from scratch. But that's got amazing drawing tools. They feel so good. If you're used to drawing in Photoshop, those feel amazing. So I've used the demo a couple of times and very quickly able to get stuff out that just looks and feels nice, because it's really nice to draw in, I find. Better onion skinning tools as well in TV Paint, where you can set the individual opacities for previous and next frames. What are the other options? After Effects, I think mostly puppet style animation, where you've drawn something already and now you're rigging it up to move around and you're setting keyframes for the movements. But I don't know if you can really draw into After Effects unless it's come a long way. After Effects, unless things have changed. I mean, I used to animate the kid show in After Effects back in the day for TV, and it was just a ridiculous amount of layers stacked on layers. It became very unwieldy. So it just didn't feel like it was meant for animation, even though we were using it for kind of frame by frame stuff. Anything I guess you can use. If you can sequence images, you could use it for animation, but I'm going to show you some examples of rigging, like just attaching bones to stuff. So give me a sec. If we were to draw something here quick, I'm actually going to draw it in Photoshop, which I hope is still open. I just got to open it quick, just to show you the general workflow between Photoshop and Moho. We kind of create a new document. I'm going to draw an arm. I'm going to save that as a PNG. Black looks a bit thin. Give me a sec. Then we'd import this into Moho. I forgot to import it in frame 0 rather. So we got our arm. Then, if I remember quick, we go bone. We drag this into the bone layer. And now we can set the bone strength. And you can bend your bone around. Immediately you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. It's fun. Then we can set keyframes. You can do some onion skinning. Actually, it's nice. I forgot that you could onion skin also individual frames here. I don't think Toon Boom has that. Whack. Let's go back to the original frame here. And then of course you can loop it. Absolute 2. And when you render, it doesn't render the bone, you know, it just renders the arm. So, you know, you set up a couple limbs like that and you've got an animated character, which is pretty cool. You can do that with legs, you can do that with bodies, you know, bending. Harmony is pretty similar. Let me just hide all this stuff. I'm not drawing with a vector layer. Then I think you do this. Go to deformers. No, I don't want that type on. Curve deformer. It's a little bit more complicated. Oh, what am I doing? Rigging tool. Shows how much I know. Nope. There we go. Something like that. Can move this bad boy around. Change the size of the area of influence for the joint. It's actually really nice. I've never really worked. Oh, cool. Can bend it around nicely. For personal projects, I always just do frame by frame, but this is pretty funky. And then I guess you can keyframe it. It's just I should have set a keyframe for this. And you get quite a lot more control, I think, with Toon Boom's rigging. And there's different kinds of rigging you can do as well. So one other thing I want to talk about is if you're working in teams, I think Toon Boom's really built for that. You know, it's there's a software you can get with Toon Boom that makes it easy to push stuff to different people. I think I remember trying to work with a couple people with Moho, and it was a bit of a nightmare. So for a studio, if you're thinking of you know, having people work on a team in a 2D studio, Toon Boom I think is a much better option. It's built with that in mind. Moho I found not really geared towards working with other people on projects. It seems like it's a lot easier if it just sits on one workstation and you're not moving files around between people. doesn't like that so much. How Moho used to work, and I wonder if it still does, is it just references files. It doesn't save it as a package. So if you are moving files around, there's a chance that it can lose those links, and you just get blank images. Whereas Toon, I think once you've imported something, it saves it in the projects directory, which is cool. Yeah, and then the way Moho advertises, I know they say, well, it's been used on this project and that project, but I think they, what they're not telling you, it was just a small piece of the production pipeline. There was like for Breadwinner, those backgrounds were definitely not painted in Moho. Those were done either gouache paintings or painted digitally in Photoshop. And then I'd imagine Moho was used for some of the character animation. And Toon Boom is used for so many shows. I think probably Simpsons is used to make. It's used for Simpsons. I guess Futurama, Bob's Burgers, geez, so many. But they just don't make such a big deal out of it. Both the names are like they don't really sound great. I mean, I like the name Moho. Anime Studio I thought was very misleading because you don't necessarily want to make anime. So I'm glad they went back to Moho, which is a cooler name. Toon Boom I think sounds like a funny name. It sounds like a kids program, but just forget about the names. If you're starting from scratch and looking to buy a new animation program, it would just be great if Toon Boom stuff was cheaper, because if price wasn't an issue, I'd definitely recommend Toon Boom. The learning curve is a little bit steeper with Toon Boom, I think. It took me actually years to grow accustomed to the UI. It just felt very clunky, and it still sometimes feels a little bit like a Windows 3.1 to me. Not particularly friendly at all. Whereas Moho, on the earlier versions, I found very friendly and lovely to work and uncluttered. The Moho help file stuff. Excuse me. I read the Moho documentation. I think in like 1 or 2 nights. I just went through it from start to finish and did all the tutorials. And this was the first animation program I learned. And after that, I kind of understood what it was. It was just really, really well written. This was when it was still being made by one guy, by Mike Clifton. Toon Booms, on the other hand, I feel like there's a big gap missing between when you're starting out and just getting to a level where you're kind of proficient with the software. So it can be pretty frustrating. There is a whole bunch of stuff online, tutorials and stuff. But yeah, I don't know if I hope that helps you give you some kind of idea of the two softwares. And at the end of the day, it's up to your creativity really. But I know if you're putting down bucks, you want to make sure you're on the right path. Toon Booms is just very expensive, unfortunately. If you're doing if it's my, because it's my work, the cost does justify itself. And I just haven't used Moho for years. Once, I also do 8-bit animation. I have to do that in Photoshop first and bring it into an animation software. I wasn't sure I could do it in Toon Boom, but I found out I actually can do it in Toon Boom Harmony, and it looks really good. With drawing in Photoshop, but Toon Boom renders it as pixels, which is cool, which is a nice surprise. I found that out today. There might be even free software that I don't know about, but good luck with your decision, and please post any stuff that you made in Toon Boom or Moho. I'd be interested in seeing it, what you come up with. Please like the video, please subscribe, please comment. I like making the vids. I hope they're informative. Bye bye.